This calls for concerted and coordinated efforts of the security agencies to address the state of insecurity in Borno State and other parts of the country experiencing similar situations. Aware that in today's world, asymmetric warfare, whereby its strategy and tactics differ significantly from the normal conventional war, the approach by our security agencies should be significant, scientifically and technologically based with the use of modern software and facilities to fight the menace. Accordingly, observe a minute's silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their precious lives from this unfortunate incident. 2, urge the National Emergency Management Agency to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the attack. And 3, to urge the federal government to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency and to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhibited by the insurgents, namely the Lake Chad region, 2, the Sambisa forest, and 3, the Mandara Mountains, respectively. Mr. President, these 3 spots are so far now the only black spot of where the insurgents are inhibiting in Borno State. I'm very sure if these 3 black spots are cleared, the end of terrorism in Borno State will definitely be achieved.
And if you note where I come from, we have had issues of security challenges and the death of people. And Mr. President, my concern here is the fact that everything that we keep talking about security here is in reaction to attacks on communities. It's in reaction to death of people. Mr. President, I think we must change the narrative and the trajectory on which we approach the issue of security. Let me therefore extend my very heartfelt condolences to the people of Borno State and in particular the people of Gwoza. Those of us who have followed the insecurity situation in the northeast, particularly in Borno State, know that Gwoza has been at the receiving end of attacks by Boko Haram insurgents. And so, Mr. President, if we have been talking about insecurity, government out, government in, week out, week in, month out, year in, year out, and we are still confronted with the menace of frequent attacks on our communities and the killing of vulnerable, defenseless civilians, then, Mr. President, we want to ask ourselves the salient questions and then appeal to government to take the bull by the horn and be the government that will solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. President, I don't want to believe that our military that have been drafted into this war do not know what to do. Be it a symmetric war or a conventional war, they are all mere semantics. The fact is that it's a war. And soldiers are trained to fight wars, whether it is asymmetric or conventional. And I don't want to think that appealing to the soldiers to deploy technology is the answer to the question, because they are trained to identify wars and to deploy appropriate mechanisms to solving the problems of war. And so, Mr. President, I think we want to challenge the Nigerian military. We cannot continue talking about insecurity, particularly the northeast, particularly Gwoza, like I said, that has had a receiving end of this insurgency.
I want to say very clearly that the military should stop using unconventional strategy to fight insurgency in Nigeria. There's a distinction between conventional strategy and non-conventional strategy. We need to go to unconventional strategy to fight unconventional war. Boko Haram is a conventional war. It's not a conventional war. We're all aware of what happened in Kenya. We cannot close our eyes. We need to wake up. So I finally suggest to you, Mr. Senate President and my distinguished colleagues, that this Senate, under your leadership, sir, must have a closed door meeting for one day and then use that the whole day to discuss security matters. Our life is very important. The life of man cannot be said to be short, brutish, and unproductive if we do nothing about insecurity. Living with insecurity cannot be the only way to understand security. We shouldn't get to that.
As a parliament, is there anything that is worthy of significant investments by the Nigerian government today, other than the security of the people of Nigeria? Is there? There isn't, is the question. Because any other thing that we wish for ourselves, that we hope and pray for our country, revolves around the security of the people and their property. I will therefore urge us and the executive arm of government to prioritize how we invest. Mr. President, I support construction of roads, but today what Nigeria needs is to secure their lives. So we should take it as a priority that when we appropriate, henceforth, real investment must be made in the armed forces and other security agencies. Mr. President, last month I attended an exhibition of new technologies for defense across the world in Paris. And today, the drones, particularly, can be sufficiently and significantly utilized to help our armed forces fight not only in the northeast against insurgents, but also the banditry in the northwest, north central, and other criminal tendencies in the southern part of the country. So I believe that we should prioritize providing funds for our armed forces to have the right kind of technology that they need.
The police cannot be everywhere. The federal government cannot enter every traditional gathering in the country and every wedding. But at least we have brought up something very serious here, that we should also employ a lot of technology. The technology don't need to be physically there. We can monitor from miles away to know when there is likely going to be an infraction in security. And also, what happened there could also be described as failure of intelligence. Because we have so many suicide bombers gathering together, it means we've not penetrated their camps. Otherwise, we would have known that they were going to strike. So preventive security must also be emphasized.